What's going on? It's your boy CJ Goodfellow. You about to enter the boxing clinic. You dig? And we talking about top 5. Just my opinion on top 5 fighters that I want to see step up in competition. You know, from this point on, going into 2018. You know, I just feel for these 5 guys, it's their time. You know, may it be in the public's eye that it's their fault they're not stepping up, or they want to move slower, or in the cases they just haven't got the opportunity. And some guys you may not have heard of, and some guys you may have heard of and be very familiar with. And I think it's time for them to make their splash. Now, some guys I left off the list, like Erickson Lubin, because he's going to get his shot. You know, Robert Brandt, he's going to get his shot, you know, in the Super World Boxing Super Series. I don't know why I have a hard time saying that. You know, maybe it's a little tongue twister. So it's just obvious guys that I know are going to get their shots. The Ukrainian guy they call the Nail, I know he's going to get his shot as well. But, you know, and a couple other guys I chose to leave off because I know eventually they're going to get their shot. But here's some guys that I think, you know, deserve to get their shot in order. I'm going to start at the bottom of the list. We're talking Justin De La Hotte. You know, the kid out of Augusta, Georgia. He's been stopped once, but he's only 23 years old. He's very young, you know, technical stoppage. And personally, I like to see him fight Erickson Lubin. I mean, Lubin is 21 years old, you know, turned pro at, 18 years old. De La Hotte is fairly young as well. Lubin is undefeated. They have had war of words on social media. So I think it'll be a great step up for him at 154 pounds. I think it's time for, you know, some of that old blood to move on, let some of this new blood take in. I think it's good for Jermell Charlo move up to 160. I'm sorry to say it. I think it's good if Andrade move up to 160. I think it's good if Lara move up to 160. That makes 160 a glamour division, and it gives you know, 154 a chance to evolve and build us a new boxing star, because most of those guys been at that weight division their whole career, and they haven't yet to let a fight come together between any of the top guys. The only guy that, you know, fought top guys at that weight class was Austin Trout. And his fight's been pushed back with her until September 30th. He's the only one that's willing and not, you know, have any fear about putting his record, you know, on the line. Number 4, Regis Prograis. I think he's out of New Orleans or Texas, wherever the hell he's from, somewhere down in the Southwest. Probably see him get a big knockout by Joel Diaz Jr. at junior welterweight. Most people said Diaz was a career lightweight, and they trying to not count that. Said they had very close fights with Earl Spence in the amateurs, and Earl Spence always barely beat him, especially in the Olympic trials, finals. I think it was the finals, barely scathed by him. I love seeing him step up in competition. You know, it will make sense. It will be a fight probably with Figueroa, but I think that's down the line, in my opinion. I like to see him step up and potentially, once Crawford and Dongo do what they gonna do, and all those belts, you know, disperse, you know, I think Ndongo stays at 140 if he loses. And I think it's good. I think a Victor Postal fight for him and a step-up fight is good for Regis. I think it's time to show people his caliber and his punching power. And he's continuing to develop his game and clean stuff up. And hopefully he continues to get better. And potentially, you know, fight with Mikey Garcia once he comes back up to 140. He called out Broner as well. I think that's a good scrap for him. Number 3 is Caleb Plant. Now, some people might be familiar with Caleb. Some people might not be familiar with Caleb. He's one of the most avoided super middleweights, according to himself. And he has, you know, good hand speed and good boxing ability. Words out of his own mouth saying that he outboxed George Grove 50 rounds out of 50 rounds of sparring. So I don't know why he wasn't in the World Boxing Super Series. Been nice to have him in there with Robert Brandt, with another American. They could have took one of those Turkish or the other light heavyweight guys from Sweden or whatever the hell they from. I don't put him in there, but maybe Al just pull the reins back on him, has a plan for him. He was Al from Tennessee. Very, very good fighter. Go look him up. Good hand speed. People say, oh, you don't have power. You don't need power to be great. You got enough power to get the respect of a lot of people. And, you know, with David Benavidez getting all the press, I think eventually his time will come. I think it's going to be a passing of the torch at some point for David Benavidez. It's like it's going to come sooner than later with Anthony Durrell. I wonder how those negotiations going. You know, 2 Al Haymon fighters, and also Caleb Plant is an Al Haymon fighter. You know, he's an amazing boxer. I mean, a lot of people don't know about him because he hasn't been put on that pedestal. You know, he's looking for fights from 160 to 168. Right now, he's ranked in at least one section of the belt body, and he coming. You know, they gotta give him this opportunity. Number 2, one of my personal favorites. Remember about 4 years ago, probably not even that long, probably more like 3. Mike, yes indeed, Reed out the Maryland area. You know, he's been working his way up, fighting who he has to fight, signed with Top Rank, I believe. And I think it's his time to blow at 140. You know, him and Regis Prograis would be a good fight. He's a very skilled individual as well. And I know he's been grinding and working on his way up, man. And I think it's his time to blow, especially once Crawford and Dongo, you know, move on to those belts first. You know, Prograis, you know, Sergey Lipit, Omar Figueroa, Victor Postal, you know, a lot of those fights are going to be good for him, man, to get up in the mix, man. And he's number 2 for the simple fact that, you know, I just know how hard he works and the grind he's been on, man. Hopefully, you know, he gets his time to blow. And I think once he gets his time, he's going to season and show the world that he's a very gifted fighter. And then number 1, Jarrell Big Baby Miller. You know, all the shit talking that he talks, you know, he wanted to fight Luis Ortiz. When Luis Ortiz, I remember he was with Matchroom, and the only reason that he didn't fight Luis Ortiz was the simple fact out of his mouth was the fact that Eddie Hearn couldn't promise him if he wanted to fight that he'd get a shot at Anthony Joshua. Some more Eddie Hearn's bullshit. That's according to him. Who knows if it's true or not? But you know, he talks so much shit, man. I was just seeing him do an interview with Brandon Taylor on True Schools a couple months ago. That he talked about the Deontay Wilder sparring. That he got knocked out. They said he got knocked out, got dehydrated, got beat so bad. They said it wasn't true. Said he ran earlier in the Alabama heat. He wasn't used to that dry heat, and he got dehydrated. And it's time for him to step up, especially after this fight with Gerald Washington. You know, all the shit that he talks. I mean, somebody give this guy a chance. I'd rather see, you know, him fight Wilder, you know, Luis Ortiz, Joshua, something in a tournament or a deal where if he beats one of those guys, he gets a title shot. But those are my top 5 guys that I'd love to see step up soon.